We are standing on a bridge. We are standing on a bridge. And of course, a bridge is a metaphor, right? It's a metaphor for change, for crossing over from here to there, from our smallness into our greatness, from our I can't to our I can. And the bridge that gets us there is called faith. So faith is our topic today, and I'm sure we've talked about faith before many times from this platform. But I want to suggest that faith isn't just a belief. The faith is a spiritual practice, like a muscle for us to exercise, and to exercise consciously, because we're standing on a bridge. So we're going to explore 3 questions today. The first question is, what is faith? Second question is, how are we using faith as individuals in our lives? And the third question is, how are we expressing faith as a spiritual community? So, what is faith? I looked up many definitions and all kinds of sources, but the one that touched my heart most comes from an East Indian poet named Tagore. He was the winner of a Nobel Peace Prize for literature. He says this: faith is the bird that feels the light and sings while the dawn is still dark. Oh, yeah. Faith is the bird that feels the light and sings while the dawn is still dark. And I love that definition because it speaks to me of perceiving the light, right? The power of God, the infinite source. And then no matter the outer condition, taking authentic action. I love that. Of course, there's a definition that many of us are more familiar with from the Revealing Word, our Unity Truth students, right? So this was written by our co-founder, Charles Fillmore. Most of you are more familiar with this. So he says, faith is the perceiving power of mind, but when he writes mind, he uses a capital M. That's significant. So again, faith is the perceiving power of mind linked with the power to shape substance. So I would suggest this is very much like Tagore, just a different metaphor. So when he's talking about perceiving the power of mind, it's the power of God, the light, linked with the power to shape substance. And when he talks about substance, he's talking about spiritual substance, that spiritual substance that's everywhere present. And who has the power to shape that substance? Yes, we do. We have that power. So much like Tagore, he's talking about perceiving the power of God, the light, linked with our power to sing our song. Of course, Jesus not only talked about faith, but he modeled it, right? In all the stories of the Bible, in all the miracle stories. He says, your faith has made you well. So when he healed the blind man, he told him, your faith has made you well. When the woman who had been ill and bleeding for 12 years just touched the hem of his garment, he turned to her and he said, your faith has made you well. To the centurion who came and said that his servant was ill and dying, come to the next village so you can save him, Jesus didn't go. He says, no, it is done according to your faith. See, Jesus didn't claim to have any hocus pocus. There was no, I have the power. It was your faith has made you well. And then in John, he says, these things and more you too shall do. Which leads us to our second question. How are we expressing faith as individuals in our lives to cross over that bridge? To cross over from a relationship that needs healing to reconciliation and wholeness. To cross over from an addiction into freedom and clarity. To cross over from a sense of poverty and lack to abundance and bounty. How are we crossing over? And I don't know what your step is. I don't know what your bridge is, but I do know that right here, right now, that power of God, that light is shining on you and telling you how, so that you can perceive that light and sing your song and cross over that bridge. So, I'd like to share one of my crossing over stories, because I know many of us have crossed over that bridge in different areas of our lives at different times. And this is a story of my crossing over on the bridge to becoming a minister, which I did kicking and screaming. So it starts about 20 years ago, and I was interviewing for a job as director of worship and volunteers at Unity Church of Overland Park, which is in the Kansas City area. So I was there for a weekend interview, and the board president said, "Do you want to go to the village while you're here?" And I thought, is that a shopping center? No joke. I had no clue. And she said, "Unity Village." I'm like, "Unity Village is near here?" She said, "Yeah, just 20 minutes away." I'm like, "Really?" I mean, I had seen it in books, I'd read stories, it was in the calendars, all the pictures, and I thought, wow, can we really go? She said, "Sure." Who's been to Unity Village? For your first time, do you remember it? Yes. I will never forget just the image of coming off that 350 highway, the off-ramp, and then you see that big tower in the distance. And I'll never forget walking under the tunnels. All the buildings are connected underneath the ground through tunnels. And there was a sense that I'd been there before, that I was returning home to myself, to a deeper awareness of myself. And I knew on that trip that if this church was offering me a job, I was supposed to say yes. So no more worrying about money and my old job or my friends, my church. I'm supposed to say yes. But here's what I didn't know about that yes. I didn't know the yes would lead me to be able to stand on a bridge like this or on a platform like this. I couldn't even believe for myself that I'd have the privilege, the incredible privilege of working with your leadership team. If you were here yesterday, would you please stand so we can honor you? What a privilege. You guys rock. Would you please acknowledge these leaders? Thanks. You can be seated. So you heard they spent Friday night with me. They came back Saturday, and they're still here. What a privilege. So I didn't know this, but that's the thing. When you say yes to Spirit, you say yes to that light, the universe comes in to support you in ways you cannot imagine. So I said yes, and I start taking these spiritual education and enrichment classes at Unity Village. But I'm not really a classroom guy. So every break, I'm out the door and I'm in the courtyard, which is beautiful. And I'm wandering through the rose gardens and the fountains, and I'm hopping up on the benches and swatting the trees. And one of the days, I go back to my class, and one of my classmates says, "Isn't that cool that they've repaired the Bridge of Faith?" And again, a duh moment for me. Where's the bridge of faith? Well, it's that bridge in the middle of the courtyard that goes over the fountains. Oh. And I knew then. All those times, all those classes, all those breaks, I'd never crossed over that bridge of faith that was right there in the middle. So I knew what I had to do. So after class that day, I walked up to the very edge, and I looked up at that bridge. And I walked up to the top, and I just let myself sob. Just sobbed, just tears of release, tears of surrender, tears of letting go any belief or worry of being perfect or good enough or can I do it? Just release all that stuff and embrace a possibility that I couldn't even imagine for myself, that maybe I can. Maybe I can. And maybe I can learn to embrace myself, even the qualities I don't like about myself, enough that I can embrace and like others just the same. Maybe. So that was my crossing over. And I would say that it's a bridge that I continue to cross over, of looking at those beliefs that hold me back and letting them go so I can embrace a higher truth that I can. Breath. So we are standing on a bridge. And I would say that this bridge of faith is really about a personal transformation, right? Like, it's not about changing anything outside. It's a personal journey. It's a dying to something within and allowing something else to be born. It's very much like the story that we're told as kids of the caterpillar that goes into the chrysalis and emerges as the butterfly. And I used to love that story. It's so sweet, I thought. It's so cute. It's not. Let me tell you what happens. So I did some research on this, and let me tell you what happens. When the caterpillar wraps itself in the cocoon, it begins the process of dying. And it dies from the within out. So what scientists call imaginal cells are formed within the body of the caterpillar. And the caterpillar's immune system does not even recognize that these cells are a part of it, so it starts to fight off these cells within itself. And so I imagine this battle ensuing within. And yes, we've conquered that one. I'm a strong caterpillar. But then there's another one, and no, I'm a strong caterpillar, and another one, no, I'm a strong caterpillar, and another one. And have you ever been there? Just fighting, struggling for the only life you've ever known? Maybe it's the only relationship you've ever known, the only career you've ever known, the only minister or church you've ever known. Until finally that caterpillar cannot fight anymore. It surrenders, and it dissolves into complete and total mush. Nothing. Mush. And here's the good news. From that mush, from that seeming nothingness, from that chaos, comes and emerges something so beautiful, so magnificent. That caterpillar could have had no idea it was to become. And let's be really clear. What came out of that chrysalis is a completely different creature than what walked in. Very different animal. So what walked in had 10 legs. What walks out has 6 legs. The caterpillar was basically an eating machine. That's what it does. It eats and devours its environment. much like I would suggest our society today, whereas the caterpillar has nearly no digestive tract at all, nearly undetectable. And whereas the caterpillar is sexless, it has no sex, the butterfly, for all intents and purposes, is just like a giant flying sex organ. Its whole purpose is to create, rather than devour. So we're not talking about becoming a real strong, better caterpillar as we cross this bridge. We're talking about a transformation of releasing what no longer serves and embracing a brand new possibility that we can't even imagine now. I'm here to tell you, we're meant to fly, folks. We're meant to fly. So let's talk a little bit about Unity of Naples. How are we expressing faith? Unity of Naples is on a bridge. I felt it yesterday. We are on an incredible bridge. It's like we're in this chrysalis stage, re-looking at what is it. It is time to let go of what is holding us back so that we can become something even more magnificent than we can imagine right now. And it's happening in the world too. You see systems breaking down, the banking system, the financial system, the judicial system. They need to break. They're no longer serving their intention. And something better that we can't even imagine yet is wanting to be born in the world. And we're like a small microcosm of what's happening in this world. And there's something much bigger, better that we're called to do. We are that bird called to feel the light and sing our song, even in the dark. Barbara Marx Hubbard is a spiritual visionary. I love her work. She's a founding member of the Association for Global New Thought, which Unity is a part of. And she writes this. She says, I believe that what we are becoming is new and open-ended, that we've not yet fully experienced our potential. No kidding. As we learn to use our radical new powers of science and technology, combined with our higher consciousness and deep wisdom, we will give birth to a society equal to our spiritual and social potential, and a new humanity that is yet only imagined to its full expression. She says, we are the crossover generation from one phase of evolution to the next. We are a crossover generation from one way of being into the next. Unity of Naples is standing on a bridge. I heard another poem. I want to share this with you. It was written by a woman named Sonia Renee Taylor. It's called Call to Dream. She says, we will not go back to normal. Normal never was. Ooh. Our pre-corona existence was not normal, other than we normalized greed, inequity, exhaustion, depletion, extraction, disconnection, confusion, rage, hoarding, hate, and lack. She writes, we should not long to return, my friends. We are being given the opportunity to stitch a new garment, one that fits all humanity and nature. We are standing on a bridge. So to close, Lynn's going to help me here. I'm going to invite you to take a little visualization trip with me, a little meditation. So I invite you to sit up in your chairs and close your eyes as we go on this journey together. And we're going to go back to June of 1951. June of 1951. And the dedication ceremony for the Bridge of Faith at Unity Village. So close your eyes and imagine you are in this beautiful, beautiful courtyard. And you can smell the beautiful aroma and scent of the roses wafting from the rose gardens. You can hear in your mind's eye the light splashing of the fountains. You can feel the sun on your face, on your skin. It's a beautiful June day. And you can feel the energy of friends who've gathered with you in this courtyard. You can feel that energy of enthusiasm. There's an excitement that's welling up as we dedicate this bridge of faith in honor of our co-founders, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. And so we sit in this anticipatory state. And now we listen. We listen to these words spoken by Ernest Wilson, Unity minister in 1951. A bridge is an affirmation. It is man's assertion of I can to nature's challenge, you cannot. It is a symbol of the pathway from frustration to fulfillment. And this is the essence of the message of our founders. The greatest testimonial we can give to Charles and Myrtle is not to admire what they had accomplished, but to find in ourselves that same quickening spirit. These are troubled times, and the dark shadow of war is on the world. Thousands of young people are giving the greatest measure of devotion for ideals. And if ever there was a time when men should lift up their hearts and find a pattern of faith to emulate, it is now. And so we take this time to feel and perceive that light of God as it seeks to speak to each of us as we consider that bridge in our own lives, as we consider what beliefs, habits, patterns it might be time to let go of and to embrace a new possibility that we cannot even imagine for ourselves. And so we move now deeper into the silence, and we listen. And as we come forward, as we return from this courtyard, from this sacred dedication, we rededicate ourselves to our own bridge, to the bridges that are opening in our own world, in our own lives, in our families, in our workplaces. And we perceive that light of God that is calling us. And we say yes. We say, yes, God. Here I am. And I'm ready. I am standing on your bridge. And so it is. Amen. And so for your home play, as it were, I like to give you something to take with you. I recommend that you take some time apart. We've done that here, but take some time apart in your own life this week. Just time. Maybe it's in your meditation chair at home. Maybe it's coming to this amazing sanctuary that you have. Maybe it's wandering the grounds, the walk, sit by the lake, whatever. But find a place where you can perceive that light of God and listen for what's yours to let go of, that's keeping you stuck, that's keeping you small. And say, yes, maybe I can. Because friends, you were born to fly. Namaste.